Please welcome our Chief Executive Officer, Leo Pareja.
Good morning. How good was Renee? So Renee's been a longtime friend for about 15 years, and it's really cool to come up with your friends and see them grow up into who they become as well. So what he didn't tell you, he's been working with Brian Ellington, and we will be creating unique content with Renee that only exists for EXP agents. How's that sound? All right. So some of you know what my favorite word in the English language is, right? Context. I actually have it on a hat. I wear it on T-shirts when I'm talking to you guys. And in the last 90 days, my world's changed a little bit. I think I've done like 76 media interviews. and now CNN and CNBC and Fortune want to know what we think is going to happen in the marketplace, which is a pretty cool shift of who we are in the industry, right? And I'm a self-described data nerd. And sometimes I've been accused of having a crystal ball, but I just like to look at data and try to figure out actionable stuff to do with it. So as I'm showing you this stuff, don't just freak out, because some of it's scary, some of it's good. Last year when I did this, it was all just bad. I do promise there is good news this year, because when I did this last year, I said, this is just pretty bad news, and my prediction is 2024 will be a copy-paste of 2023. I'm just giving away that my prediction of 2025 is actually better than 2024, so I'll start there. And I saw this quote the other day, and it actually kind of made me feel why I feel about data this way. Because it said, general ambition gives you anxiety, but specific ambition gives you direction. And so I think that's what the context the data does. So just jump right into the nerdy stuff I always talk about. That's GDP quarter by quarter. So if you see in 2022, we fell off a cliff and we all got locked up for a couple months there. Consumer spending is still keeping us afloat as an economy, which is good. Somehow the Fed seemed to have delivered this soft landing they were predicting. Not a lot of hope in it, but it looks like it's being delivered. One of the red flags is that consumer spending is still at an all-time high. Consumer spending now is $18 trillion. The good news is it's mostly mortgage debt, offset by $35 trillion of home equity. So remember that when I start talking about the next part. We are experiencing record levels of debt in credit cards at 1.3 trillion, 1.6 in auto, and 1.5 in student debt. So I'm going to talk about loan defaults and all that stuff probably later on, but just know that in real estate and economic cycles, they never look the same. So if there is another crisis, it won't look like the one you may or may not have lived through in the real estate industry in 2008. So it is super, super important that you spend 2025 belly to belly. The next distressed seller that's in your database won't look like the financial crisis. It'll look like someone who is underemployed, can't pay their credit card bills, and you might have sold them a house 2 or 3 years ago. So statistically, there was like zero chance that they're going to list again, because it normally takes 7 to 10 years. So I would recommend that you send a CMA to everyone you sold a home to in the last couple of years and say, hey, congratulations, did you realize your house went up $200,000? If you know anyone interested in selling your home in your neighborhood, because I have a whole bunch of buyers that are ready to buy, let me know. That way you're not saying, hey, are you behind on your bills? Do you need to sell? So another really important indicator of the healthy economy is unemployment. We're sitting right around 4.2, 4.3, which is not alarming at all. Most economy says that under 5% is full employment. So again, really, really important data for us. Job growth is slowing down. It surged a little bit in August. But wage growth is up 4% year over year, and the average hourly rate in the US is now $30 an hour. So affordability is its rates, its job growth, and what people earn. So again, good news for what we do for a living. The Fed finally cut the rate. Last year when I told you this, we had just seen the fastest spike in interest rates in the history of America. which really kind of messed up our world a little bit. So inflation hit its target rate of 2%. Fed started cutting. The prediction is 2 more cuts by the end of the year and a full point in 2025. So that should start settling down markets, although it will be gradual. So a lot of people think the Fed cut rates means mortgage rates drop. It does not. It's more the 10-year Treasury. But anything helps, and there's been boosts in the job market. So when rates come down, that helps everything, right? Businesses can borrow money. Consumers can borrow money. And so the cost of everything starts to come down a little bit there. Now, this is the one that I talk about all day long. So a lot of this stuff, if you've heard me in a small room or a big room or on interviews, I talk about this a lot. This is the one that I think is most important for context. August was the 36th consecutive months where we sold less homes than the previous year. Do you guys know how many homes were on track to sell in the resale market? Somewhere between 3.8 and 3.9 million homes in 2024. That's the worst year since 1995. If you sold homes during 08, 09, and 10, this is actually worse, which for you as agents is really confusing because, like, were the restaurants busy? Right? There's demand for everything, but you guys sell homes. We are in a recession of transactions, which really affect your life. That's why I always invite you to have context, because a lot of you, a lot of us, say, it's really hard right now. So I want to congratulate you and applaud you, because you just survived literally the worst year in 35 years. Clap for that. And this is the good news. I'm now going to give you some good news. Right? Pending homes are going up. Right? It's a leading indicator, probably 30 or 60, 90 days out. So pending contracts that haven't closed are going up, and it's tied to the rates slipping, which is good. Good news. Mortgage rates continue to come down. We've seen more buyers enter the pre-approval process. Right? So when rates jumped up, we lost all the refinances, and then buyers pulled back dramatically. That's starting to come down. Loan applications are getting close to where they were in 2022, but rates need to really come down more, right? We are at 6.25, but guys, we sold homes at 8% a couple months ago last year. It was a dramatic difference of what we were used to for the last 10, 20 years. So again, not quite where they need to be, but they're getting there. In my opinion, that magic rate where it brings people back off the sidelines will be right about 5.5. But there is a lot of dislocation in the market. Normally, the mortgage rates track the 10-year Treasury by about 250 to 300 basis points, where right now, typically that's a 150 basis point difference. So we should see some reprieve as the markets settle down in the next year, get past an election, and hopefully not a couple more wars, because that affects interest rates quite a bit. All right, inventory is back up, finally. We're back up on inventory year over year by 34%. Some of that is due to market slowing down, taking more time to sell. Some of that is because sellers can come to market now. It's still 23% below pre-pandemic levels, but it's coming. It's up 12% over last year, and that'll help buyers have more options. And again, supply is back to 2019 levels in certain states. So Florida, Idaho, and Tennessee, and Texas are back to pre-pandemic levels. Yes, if you sell in those states, you can now actually find homes to show people. Interestingly, those states have seen the lease price appreciation. It's significantly slowed down, but it's what we expected. Now, this is where you have to be the local expert, right? Look at the state of Florida where I live. Florida is completely green. A lot of people, or South Florida, and then other parts of Florida, completely different. So this is where you show your value, especially in this conversation with the NAR changes. You have to know your market. You have to be able to deliver value across the board. Pricing determines inventory, right? So the markets where inventory is rising, pricing is flat to decreasing. Markets where the inventory is tight, price is going up. Okay, this is a part that, again, you write this down to find new transactions. Home sales are the green shoot that we've seen. So we're up over last year. 700,000 homes probably are going to be completely closed in new construction. That's 20% of every transaction this year. Did you guys hear that? 20%? That's substantially higher than average. Average is 10 to 15%. But there are very logical reasons for it. First, there is 9 months of new construction inventory supply across the country. That's higher than normal. But again, we needed that. We lacked inventory. Second is the price to sell a home in new construction is down 10% from peak during the pandemic. So home builders have brought the prices down. They've done some shrinkification where they're making smaller footprints so they can sell them for a little bit less. But builders are aggressively trying to deliver new homes. And median prices of new homes are very similar to resale pricing across the country. And then lastly, builders can offer concessions. Builders on average are now paying 5% concessions towards purchase or price that can be used to buy down the rate. And again, more good news. I promised you good news today. Housing starts and new permits are both up, which again, if you remember the Great Recession, we did not build enough homes for almost a 10-year period, so builders have a lot to catch up on. Depending on the economists you ask, we're short 2 to 4 million homes. I think we're probably closer to 5, but we're heading in the right direction. And then overall in the United States, demographics are going the right direction. There's other industrialized countries like Japan that are suffering from population decrease. This is a phenomenal, interesting stat that I just read. 12,000 Americans turn 35 years old every single day right now. That is peak buying age. So there is demand of buyers. We just need rates to come down and enough inventory to hit the market. And most of the population growth in this country is coming from the Hispanic market. You guys know I was NARP's national president. I worked on the Hispanic State of the Union quite a bit. But it's the fastest growing population and will soon enough be the largest buying demographic in the United States over the next 10 years. The Hispanic population is younger than the overall population, so still haven't entered their peak buying years. But when I was NARP's national president, people would come ask me, I said, do I need to learn Spanish? I said, absolutely not. You just need to attract someone to your team who can take care of that demographic for you. So if you're in a market where you're seeing that, that's a good idea. Now, our neighbors to the north, they were getting beat up with us, and they also got good news. The housing market is starting to recover up north, even though we saw a slight decrease in August to July, but sales are the highest level since January and the second highest this year. Sales are still lagging to pre-pandemic levels, but they're gradually trending, and we've bottomed out since 2023. Prices are lower by 4% than they were a year ago in Canada. And the Bank of Canada continues to cut rates to stimulate more demand and could see an increase in pricing again. Canadian inventory is rising as well. They're up 19% year over year, which is still lower than the average of 4.1 months of supply. I'm sorry, they're currently at 4.1, which is lower than the average 5-month supply. But again, Canada's getting some reprieve as well. So good news across the board in North America. Now, commercial market. First of all, if you're a commercial advisor, stand up. All of you. All right, so first of all, for all you residential agents, you need to meet all these people and partner because there is an untapped potential to work together and send referrals across the board. But the good news is that commercial market is bottomed out. I think they got beat up the worst during the interest rate hikes. Transaction volume has increased from Q1 to Q2. All sectors, apartment, industrial, office, showed a little bit of price improvement month over month in the previous month. The office sector, especially in central districts, and apartment sector had the largest price decreases compared to year over year, and probably still going to experience quite a bit of disruption. The rents are stabilizing, and importantly for our commercial advisors who specialize in leasing, average rents went up both in apartment and office for the second quarter. But again, they got their butts kicked for 2 years, so this is very good news. Apartment vacancies ticked up a little bit, probably due to the massive amount of construction completion. So about 1 million new units are coming online between 2023 and 2024. And with the spike in interest rates, all developers stopped building new construction in the apartment sector, pretty much completely. And so what will happen is we'll absorb the inventory, then we won't have enough, and then they'll start building again. So I promised good news. This is what I told CNN, so I might as well stick to it because now it's in writing. I think we're going to see about a 10% increase in total transactions for 2025. Which feels really good because I feel like all I've given you is bad news for the last 2 years. But whether we're talking about the NAR settlement, or we're talking about interest rates, or we're talking about buyer agency agreements or listing agency agreements, you guys do important work. You guide families through the most expensive investment of their lives, which happen to be the most emotional transaction of their lives. It's ranked up there in like the top 10 most stressful things they do in their life. And I always invite you to go back to that. You are there to be that expert guide to shepherd them home where they're going to raise their families. Thank you so much for everything you do, and I'm excited to spend the rest of the couple days with you. Thank you.